All right, welcome. My name is Dr. Karthik Ramanan. I'm so excited to be able to do this class for you in the Expert Talk series for the Mind Journal. And today we're going to be talking about anxiety. Does it affect the physical body? Answer yes. I just gave away the whole thing. More importantly, what can we do about it? So, I'm going to give folks a second to hop on here. If you're watching the replay, let me know in the comment section on this live stream that you're watching the replay so I can see your comments later when you watch. And if you are here live, let me know where you are watching from. I am in Phoenix, Arizona, United States. Bright and early here this morning. Really excited to bring this presentation to you because there's a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff that you'll get to enjoy. All right, so yep, let me know throughout the chat. By the way, you can comment at any time while I'm teaching here. We'll have a separate, definitely a Q&A section toward the end, and we're going to be collecting those comments along the way. But during this session, I want it to be interactive. Okay, so I want to be able to talk to you, kind of vibe with you, see how you're doing. Aha, Jose from Los Angeles, California. Good to see you, sir. Who else do we got on? Let me know where you're watching from and if you're excited for this talk about anxiety and what you can do about it. East Central Pennsylvania, Andrea, Rania from Dubai. Awesome. So good to see you all. Istanbul. This is amazing. We've got a crowd from everywhere. I love this. Because the reality is anxiety doesn't care where you're from. It is something that a lot of us, deal with just in our modern society. We're gonna jump into all of that here. All right. So, does anxiety affect the physical body? Like I said, yes, but we'll get into that. First, real quick about me. So I'm Dr. Karthik Ramanan. I go by Dr. K, just easier. And I'm an emotional health mentor and a licensed naturopathic physician here in the state of Arizona in the United States. Got my naturopathic medicine degree from the Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine. Did a couple of bachelor's degrees at Cornell University. Actually worked on Wall Street for 8 years prior to doing this. But whatever. Here, this is me in 2011. Okay, this is when I had just been promoted to the level of vice president at the investment bank that I was working on. And this is actually a picture in my brand new studio apartment that I was able to get at that point in my life. And here I had paid off my student loans, my parents' credit card debt. I'd given more to charity than I ever dreamed that I could at that time in my life, in my early 20s, or sorry, my mid 20s. And I was a single man in New York. I mean, I had a lot of things going for me, except I hated the man in the mirror. And nobody knew that I live in shame. Nobody knew that I lived in chronic self-criticism, depression, fear, some panic attacks as well. I hated myself for being obese and unhealthy, and I was ashamed of being seen. I was fearful of being lonely, and I was at rock bottom. And it was this time that I saw my sister after a 3-month span, and things started to change for me. I saw her, at one point, and 3 months later, and she had lost like 30 pounds. Her cystic acne had cleared up. And I said, wow, what did you do? Because again, when you're at rock bottom, you're willing to do a whole lot more than you would say yes to otherwise. And in my head, I knew, okay, whatever she did, I'm going to do. And she tells me, oh yeah, I've just been doing this, raw food, plant-based diet. I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? And she said, well, it's, I've just been eating fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, just as they're found from the earth. I'm like, yeah, that sounds crazy. But I'm willing to do it. And all of a sudden, within 3 weeks of slowly implementing that nutrition change, not only was I feeling better physically and mentally, but I was at the lowest weight that I'd ever been as an adult. And that is when I started to believe. I started to believe that I could feel different. I could be different. I could, really discover who I was made of, that I wasn't going to be limited by the neurochemicals and everything else that was going on in my mind, that maybe there was another alternative, another reality that I could lean into. And that's when I decided to leave my career and go study to become a naturopathic doctor. I started living outside of my comfort zone, and ultimately I found purpose. This is my wife, Samantha. We met in medical school, and we are happily married now for the last few years. And this is a life, honestly, if you had seen me 10 years ago, I would have never, ever, ever believed that I'd be right here, living the life that I am right now and being able to share all of this with you. So how many of you have had a moment like that in your life where you were at rock bottom and you decided to make a change and it took you to a whole different place? If you have, let me know in the chat, because I definitely want to see, I want to hear your stories. Ria, Karen, Barbara, good to see you. Welcome. And here's the thing. If you move past your struggles, if you move past anxiety, if you move past whatever else it is you're dealing with, what could you do? Because it is critical to know your why. Because what I'm going to talk about today, I don't really go for the quick fixes, right? For my clients, we go for sustained change, because I'm all about helping people live at their highest level, right? To not just deal with the anxiety or whatever else is present in their life, but to really, discover what they're made of, and go from there. All right. So anxiety is associated with, right? Does it affect the body? Here we go. Heart disease, hypo and hyperglycemia. So low blood sugar and high blood sugar. Anxiety is associated with both. Okay. What else? How else is it associated? Diabetes, right? Type 2. So anxiety and diabetes are correlated. What else? Well, irritable bowel syndrome. Okay. How many of you have dealt with, on maybe the lightest level, some upset tummy, while you're feeling some anxiety, but also maybe even some more severe symptoms? Let me know if you've had any of these so far, along with anxiety. Let me know in the chat. Hyper and hypothyroidism. Okay. Respiratory disorders. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Right? Chronic pain and more. Okay, so these are just some of the things that anxiety is associated with, and it's not just something that lives in the mind, right? There is more to it. Okay, any questions on that so far? All right, we'll have the questions at the end, but yeah, Barbara's saying yes. She relates to some of these other challenges that go along with anxiety. So here's something really important to remember, though. Okay. Correlation is not causation. So let's take anxiety and hypertension as an example. Did the anxiety cause high blood pressure? Or does high blood pressure cause anxiety? They go hand in hand, right? But which one causes the other? Or did something else cause them both? Okay. So let me know if this concept makes sense, that correlation, which is two factors that move together, does not mean causation, which is that one caused the other. Does that make sense? Okay. It's really important to know this, because when we ask the question, does anxiety affect the physical body? Well, I mean, yeah, it is associated with all these things. It goes hand in hand with some or more of these things for any individual person. But that doesn't mean that anxiety causes them. It doesn't mean that those other things cause anxiety necessarily. Okay. It's really important to remember that. And here's another example to kind of demonstrate this point. So here we have a graph of, I believe this is in the United States, high school graduates versus pizza consumption. Okay. These two clearly go together. I mean, look at that. That is as strong a correlation as there is, right? These two go together. So the question is, did more, high school graduates, right, drive more high school people graduating high school, did that drive more pizza consumption? Or did people eating more pizza, maybe as a kid, increase their intelligence, and now all of a sudden they're they're graduating from high school, right? I mean, clearly this is meant to be meant to illustrate a point. Or is there a common underlying factor? So the more likely explanation in this case is that the US population has been increasing over time, which means that more people graduate from high school and more people consume pizza. And so they just go hand in hand. So make sure you understand this concept and let me know if you if this makes sense. The correlation does not equal causation. Because it's really important when we look at anxiety to know that these things might go hand in hand, but it's not necessarily one and the same. So as you look at this or any other article talking about anxiety and its effect on the body or conditions that affect anxiety, just remember, again, correlation, not causation. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're totally unrelated, though, as that there very well could be some underlying conditions that may affect us in multiple ways, anxiety being one of them. And I will get into more of that later in our talk today. If you are learning something already, type yes in the chat right now. All right. If you're learning something already, type yes in the chat because there's a lot more to come. I got a lot more good stuff to share with you. And I hope you are as excited as I am. All right. So let's talk real quick about some anxiety physiology. All right. So we're going to start here in the amygdala. It's this little little structure in the center of the brain. This is the emotional response center. Okay. It is a structure that's actually shared among many animals, and it quickly triggers our fight or flight response. Because think about it. If we were out in nature, do we want to quickly react to that tiger roar? Or shall we send this up to our thought center and say, okay, you know what? I hear a roar. Should I stay where I am? Or should I run? Or should I climb up a tree? Or should I talk to my friend Bob over here? No, you hear the tiger roar, you got to run, right? So what happens? So the amygdala sends this trigger, the fight or flight response, to the brainstem, and now you have your sweaty palms, racing heart, things that increase your alertness because this is survival. This is important for survival. But what also happens is in the cortex here, right? We have excitatory and inhibitory responses. So in the prefrontal cortex, we have, again, rational, logical thought. So this basically is tempering the fear response. It's saying, okay, you know what? I know you've got the fear response here, this anxiety response, but it's okay. The situation's all right. So this part can now calm the amygdala. And then the other side says, oh, you know what? That roar, now I see the tiger. I smell the tiger. It's right in front of me. You better climb up that tree right now. Right. So this is the excitatory response. So this all happens here. But how many of you have tried when you're dealing with anxiety just to rationally think it out? It's like, okay, I'm okay. It's okay. What I'm having anxiety over, it's not a big deal. How many times can you actually calm yourself down when you're in the midst of a strong anxiety attack, right? Not always, because again, the brainstem, this is what's causing a lot of the symptoms in your body, as far as your whether it's butterflies in the tummy or whether it's that racing heart or whatever it is. So you kind of have to get all of these things in line, these parts of the brain in line as you're going through this. So, but it's important to understand the physiology, and it's really important to understand this next concept. Okay. The next concept is this: our brains are designed to keep us safe. Our brains are designed to keep us safe. So it is really, really important to understand this. You are not broken. Okay. When you're dealing with anxiety, just know you are not broken. We are designed to intelligently be able to detect issues, stressors, and challenges and respond to them. This is a survival mechanism. We're made this way. Okay. However, we're made for a world of nature. We're made for a world where we are not bombarded with, all the notifications that come in, and all the agendas that people have in our lives, and the 24-hour news cycle. So those things just add to the machinery, right? That is doing its job. It's just on overload, right? So in our modern world, there's so many stressors, more than we were ever designed for. So as we go forward here, as in this presentation, just keep this in mind. Our brain is designed to keep us safe. So this is not about just erasing anxiety only, okay? It's about establishing fundamental pillars of health that, among other things, may also help calm the overactive mind that is just trying to keep you safe, okay? Your brain is designed to keep you safe. All right, so here are 4 sort of strategies for moving past anxiety. Why is there an asterisk? Because, well, the first one is 5 pillars of emotional health. So that's why I'm lumping them all into one here. So what are the 5 pillars of emotional health? We'll get into this in a second, but there's also gut health. Your gut health is your emotional health. Okay, so we're going to talk about gut health here. We're going to talk about morning routine. And we're also going to talk about the concept of reframing. All right, so those are the 4 star things that we're going to talk about here coming right up. All right, so get out your notepad, your notebook, your papers, whatever. Take notes on your computer. We're about to dive into it. You ready? I mean, we already dived into some of it, so let's take it a step further. All right, and I'm gonna just take a quick second here to read the chat. So Kylie says, "Is there any process to calm anxiety attacks fast?" I'm actually going to talk about that toward the end. But great question. Andrea says, "Talk to myself all the time." Betty, lots of times, almost every day. Mine never stops. Totally get that. My mind doesn't stop either, right? It's a matter of establishing the fundamentals so that when that mind is active, it's able to be active on things that move you toward the person that you're striving to be. I tell this to my family and friends when they're experiencing anxiety symptoms: take deep breaths, calm down, step back. Yeah, I mean, like zoom out, right? When you're in the moment, you're in the suffering, it's very hard to see the forest from the trees. So it's almost about creating more of a practice of self-care when you're outside of that acute situation so that you're better equipped to handle those acute situations. All right, let's go into this. What are the 5 pillars of emotional health? Your psychology. So this is your default thought patterns, your beliefs about yourself. This is your history of trauma falls into here. This is your emotional intelligence. These are the things that you believe about yourself to be true. And the things about the others around you, the world around you. So if we are walking around in this world pretending that we're fine, right? Like I was in my previous life, my previous career, right? Pretending on the outside that everything is okay, but inside always feeling that I wasn't enough. How is that going to translate? That's going to translate to dealing with a whole lot more stress and anxiety than we might need to be otherwise. Whereas if we feel that we are enough, if we believe that we are healthy and vibrant and able to overcome all of our obstacles, now all of a sudden that overactive mind can move toward a different function, right? So psychology, optimizing your way of thinking, your belief patterns is critical. Number 2, your relationships. We are all the average of the 5 people and ideas that we spend the most time with. Who here has somebody in their life that makes your anxiety worse? Just being around them makes your anxiety worse. If that happens to you, say me in the chat so that I know, so that we all know that, hey, we're not alone in this. Remember, we are the average of the 5 people and ideas. So how can we spend time around people who see us for who we truly are? How can we spend time with empowering individuals? How can we spend time with people that are going to amplify and move us toward our dreams, right? People who are not stress balls themselves, or when they are, they have the emotional intelligence to be able to recognize, okay, in the moment, I'm dealing with this, but I am not my thoughts. I am not my feelings. I am something greater than all of these. I'm simply experiencing the thoughts, experiencing the feelings, experiencing the anxiety. It is a storm. It comes, it goes, and everything is going to be okay on the other end of it. If you're around people that behave that way all the time, it's going to drastically impact the quality of your life. Okay. Yeah, we got some people in the chat that are saying, yeah, I got people in their lives that trigger some anxiety. So again, how can we spend time with people that are more growth seeking individuals? The third one, nutrition. I'm actually going to dive into this one in great depth right after this, so I'm going to skip over it for now. Sleep is my fourth pillar of emotional health, specifically for a lot of us that are always, we're really busy. We're taking care of everybody. We're doing all the things, whether it's in our business or for a job or whatever it is. And sleep is like the first thing to go, right? If who here sleep is the first thing to go, say yes, right? If, when you're busy, right? It just happens. But here's the thing, sleep is when we commit things to long-term memory. It's when we process the day's events. Our brain is literally detoxifying while we sleep. And we all have had that experience of when we don't sleep as much, we are less emotionally resilient, right? The smallest things can set us over the edge. So creating a high quality sleep pattern, nighttime routine, morning routine is critically important to make sure that we get 8 quality hours of sleep. Again, we do the best we can. There are going to be days that maybe you've got an early flight or whatever else. That's going to happen. That's okay. But more often than not, staying up to watch Netflix till 11 o'clock, do we really need to do that? Or would that extra hour or two of sleep give you a high quality rest of your day tomorrow, right? Something to keep in mind. And then number 5, body movement, because motion dictates emotion. And how can we spend more time outside? How can we spend more time breathing, right? How can we spend more time with our feet in the dirt, right? With the sun on our face? These are things that drastically improve our mental health and therefore put us in a state where we are less likely to experience severe anxiety. All right, 5 pillars of emotional health. Now, gut health. This one is critical. All right, so here we go. There are 39 trillion bacteria that live in your gut. 39 trillion. Collectively, they are the gut microbiota. Their DNA, their genetic material that we have access to and the functions that they perform is called the gut microbiome. How many, raise your hand or say yes if you have heard of that term, gut microbiome, because I'm actually really curious about this. So I'm going to be looking for your answers there. Say yes if you've heard of the term gut microbiome. If you haven't, no big deal, because honestly, it's a fairly recent trend or not trend. It's a line of research that's coming about, and the majority of the papers really are published in the last 5 years. It's a blossoming area of science that is absolutely fascinating. And 39 trillion bacteria, that means that the bacteria that live in your gut actually outnumber your own cells by over 100 to 1. To give you an idea how big 39 trillion is, if you took, I realize that not everybody here is from the US, but if you've seen the American penny, just think about it as it's a coin and it's not very thick. So if you had 39 trillion pennies and you stacked them one on top of the other, okay, you would have a tower that would go from here to the moon 154 times. That is mind-blowing to me. 154 penny towers. That's how many bacteria that we have in our gut. And they actually serve a really vital function, we're learning, that seems like our bodies have really outsourced a lot of critical functions to them, one of which I'm going to cover here shortly. Actually, right now, they make 30 different neurotransmitters. These are the chemical messengers. They regulate how you think, how you act, how you feel. So 30 different neurotransmitters are actually created by some of these bacterial strains that live in your gut. Okay. So I think Linda and Sarah have heard of gut microbiome. So this to me, listen, if you take nothing else from this lesson here, it's this part. Focus on your gut health, because I've seen it time and again have a drastic positive impact on people's emotional health. Okay, so not only are 30 different neurotransmitters made, those neurotransmitters are 90%. 90% of your neurotransmitters come from your gut. So we spend all this attention trying to figure out pharmaceutically, things like that. How do we maintain neurotransmitter balance in the brain, in the rest of the nervous system, where 90% of them are coming from your gut? Your body doesn't even only makes like 10% of it. So if we don't have the right bacteria that live in our gut that make these neurotransmitters for us, how are we supposed to feel well? This is the source, okay? It is the source. And then we have the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve goes from basically your brain straight down into various parts of your torso, and it regulates digestion, heart rate, involuntary breathing, reflexes like coughing, sneezing, swallowing. So it directly connects to your stomach, to your small intestines, to your large intestine. So the brain is signaling the release of digestive enzymes through the vagus nerve, and to the digestive organs. But here's what's fascinating. The brain to gut direction of impulses that fire from brain to gut, that's only 10% of the activity. 90% of the fibers of the vagus nerve actually go from your gut to your brain. Why? Why? Because our gut is a second brain. The bacteria that live in our gut essentially act as a second brain. All of those neurotransmitters, right? It's critical to take care of your gut health. Okay. So I want to talk here about a couple studies real quick. So a study that was published in Nature Microbiology examined the relationship between your gut microbiome and which is, again, the bacteria living in your gut, and your mental health. So the study's researchers combined the microbiome data with depression diagnoses for 1,054 participants. So it's a pretty decently sized study. And they wanted to see if there were specific microbes that lived in these individuals' guts that correlated with mental illness. And again, correlation, not causation, but there is, like we're seeing, there's enough pieces of evidence that make us wonder, maybe there is causation here, right? Because we've got the number of bacteria, the number of neurotransmitters that are produced, the percentage of neurotransmitters of our body's overall neurotransmitters that are produced in the gut. There's got to be something to this, right? The vagus nerve, all that stuff. So the researchers found that two specific species, and not that these are the only two necessarily, but Coprococcus and Dialister were low in individuals experiencing depression. And they also found that individuals who had high levels of Coprococcus and this other one, Faecalibacterium species, in their guts had higher quality of life indicators, including mental health. And see, these last two strains produce butyrate, which is a short chain fatty acid that is made in abundance by a healthy gut microbes. Okay, butyrate is critical, and it is made in the presence of good food. And I'm going to get to that very shortly. What is that good food? Like, how do we support these good guys forming, and not the bad guys that are giving us dysbiosis, irritable bowel, right, and all these other things. So another study published in Nature Microbiology found that the species Bacteroides produces the neurotransmitter GABA aminobutyric acid. Who's heard gamma aminobutyric acid? Who's heard of GABA, right? If you've heard of GABA, say GABA in the chat. So GABA is specifically interesting to us because it's an inhibitory neurotransmitter. It produces calm. It slows us down. So if you think about it, if you had low levels of GABA in your system, wouldn't that be associated with anxiety? Like, wouldn't that make sense? Because low GABA, you can't calm yourself, right? It makes sense. So here we find that a bacteria species in a healthy gut also produces GABA. So again, we're looking at more evidence. There's more moral of the story that we have to eat foods that are going to give us the healthiest gut microbes if we want to move past anxiety, if we want to move past depression, if we want to move past all these other things that are also associated with poor gut health. So the moral of the story, take care of your gut health and your emotional health will follow. Okay. Who's down with taking care of your gut health? Who's down with taking care of your gut health? All right. I want to see that. Because this, like I said, if you don't get anything else out of this, get this one out of it. All right. Next. So anxiety is associated with, remember this list, right? So it turns out that when you eat in a manner that supports a strong gut microbiome, in addition to lower anxiety, eating this way is also associated with lower heart disease, lower incidence of hyperglycemia, diabetes, lower IBS, lower asthma, lower chronic pain. Pretty interesting, right? The same way of eating, the same healthy gut microbes mean less anxiety and less all of these other things. Remember when I said correlation doesn't equal causation and maybe there's an underlying root cause? This could be it, right? The gut microbiome could be it because it is so individual to each of us. Like the microbes that live in your gut versus mine versus the next person, it's more individual than a fingerprint. It's very, very unique. It's an evolving dynamic ecosystem. And the foods that we eat have a drastic impact there. Okay. So how to take care of your gut health. Okay. This is a very long topic. Okay. But so I'm going to give you the short answer. Eat more fiber. Like that's it. Eat more fiber, but specifically from a broad variety of whole plant foods, not from Metamucil, right? Don't mix it in a drink. Specifically, eat more whole plants. Eat less of the foods that you find in the aisles and in boxes. Eat more variety of whole plant foods that you find in the produce section, fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, seeds. Okay. Your dark leafy green vegetables, your kale, your spinach, your cruciferous like your broccoli, but also things like potatoes, not fried in oil and all that stuff. But because again, the oil is a refined item, right? You want the whole plant food. Not that you can't use some oil. It's just excess oil, like in the form of French fries. Yeah, it's a potato. It's not healthy anymore, right? But eat whole unadulterated plant food as much as possible. So if you want to have an energy bar, reach for a banana instead. It's nature's energy bar. So this broad variety of whole plant foods, what happens is the fiber that is contained in those plant foods, specifically the soluble fiber, and there's a massive variety of these things, each one fosters the growth of different healthy bacterial species, and they go ahead and produce the serotonin, the GABA, and all these other things that we need in order to have strong emotional health. But in the same time, they also produce what we need to have a really healthy immune system, hormone balance, all of the above. Gut health is everything. So please eat more whole plants. And if you want a little bit more resources to go deeper, I have a course called Good Mood Plant Food, which I will talk about toward the end. But if you want a book resource, the best one that I have come across is Fiber Fueled by Dr. Will Bulsiewicz. Definitely pick up that book. He goes into the science much more deeply than I can here. He's an incredible researcher and clinician as well. And a lot of incredible information in that book. And I believe he has a cookbook coming out in, I think, May, the Fiber Fueled cookbook. So it's worth checking that out. All right. So Linda's saying I eat all of them. Barbara says this all makes sense. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Excellent. All right. Whew, man. Take your water, green juice, whatever else you have going for you. All right. Let's continue. Morning routine. The next tip. Why? Why have a morning routine? Well, to help you take control of your day. Because how many times do we wake up and all of a sudden we feel like the day's getting away from us? Guess which days you're going to have more anxiety, right? All of a sudden you start the day feeling like it's getting away from you. It happens, right? And it happens to all of us, by the way. It happens to me to this day. If I let my guard down a little bit and don't I don't need my morning routine today. I pay the price. Pay the price. Take control of your day. Start your day with a morning routine of self-care. It helps you maximize your energy for the day, not just physical energy, not just your energy to go through the day, but your mental energy, your focus, your resilience too, right? When something goes off course, your ability to recenter yourself and move forward with that. It increases your focus and your productivity, lowers stress levels. Again, lowering your stress response means potentially less anxiety. And really, I mean, you're setting yourself up for joy, is basically what it boils down to. You're setting yourself up for having a joyful day. So here are some elements of a morning routine. These are some of my personal favorites, but really do anything that inspires you. Okay. Do something that makes you feel accomplished, makes you feel proud, and something that you want to do, but maybe you don't get to do typically. Right. So here's the really important one. How many of you type the word phone in the chat if you do this? How many of you sleep with your phone at night? Maybe your phone is your alarm clock. How many of you sleep with your phone at night? Type phone in the chat. So if so, let me know if this sounds familiar to you. You're laying in bed, you just go to bed and you're on your phone trying to look at, what's going on, maybe social media, whatever. And then you set your alarm, you put it next to you. Now you try to fall asleep. Now a few hours later, you have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. So you get up, fumble your way, you go to the bathroom, you lay down, and what do? You take a look at your phone. Maybe somebody texted me, at 2 a.m. Maybe it's important. Maybe you just want the dopamine hit in the middle of the night. And then what happens? You put it down, you're like, I can't sleep, right? And it takes you another half hour, 1 hour to fall asleep. But then here's the big one. Alarm goes off, you wake up in the morning, and what's the first thing you do? Because you got to turn off the alarm. The first thing you do is you start scrolling. And what happens? Before your feet have even touched the ground, you've given up control of your entire day. You've read somebody else's text message for you, somebody's email that pisses you off, right? Maybe it's social media, somebody projecting their perfect life. Maybe it's the news. Whatever it is, it's something that is outside of your control that is now infiltrated into your mind. The first 30 minutes after we wake up every day, right? We have a alertness hormone called cortisol. And cortisol peaks 30 minutes after we rise. And it makes sense because after you've slept, if we were out in nature, right? The body is intelligent. It is made for survival. If you have fasted all night by sleeping, what's the first thing you want to do in the morning? It makes sense. Be alert. Go get food, check on your loved ones nearby, right? 30 minutes. And then after that 30 minutes, our cortisol levels off as the day goes on. And so that by the end of the day, we have low cortisol because you don't want to be alert when you're trying to sleep. So in that first 30 minutes, we're just getting into our body, getting into our mind. And if our phone is next to us, we have lost control of our entire day. So I said this before, if you take nothing else away from it, do the gut health stuff. Yes. And this other one, if you really don't even want, if you're like, Dr. K, I'm not changing my diet, man. There's no chance in hell. I'm not doing it. Okay, fine. But at least do this one. Okay. Do this one for me. Put your phone in another room at night. Okay. Wake up in the morning. Don't look at it. If you're like, okay, look, I need an alarm clock. Okay. So I'm old enough to remember an age where we had these things called alarm clocks. You can go get them on Amazon. I checked. They're less than $10 now. They're super cheap. Everyone makes them. And they just, it makes a sound when you set the time and you don't actually need your phone. It's awesome, right? So wake up to an alarm clock or wake up to the sunrise, whatever you're able to do. And then when you wake up, brush your teeth, do all of that stuff. And then, find something else that inspires you. Spend some time outside with the sun on your face. This one's really critical also for maintaining your body clock, is getting that morning sunlight exposure. Maybe you can meditate or pray. Visualize the day's events that are before you, right? It's a great opportunity for prayer. I think a lot of us want to spend more time doing this and we just don't have enough time. And this is actually a perfect way to do it through your morning routine. Visualization, again, visualizing what your long-term goals are, the person that you're striving to be, a person that eats well, that spends time with great people, that, sleeps well, moves your body, and in the process is free of anxiety. Visualize that future ideal version of yourself each and every day, and you start moving into that reality of yourself. Affirmations, speak truth to yourself every morning, right? If you deal with I'm not enough, right, then speak 10 truths about yourself to offset the one I'm not enough every day, part of your morning routine before anyone tells you what to do because you haven't looked at your phone yet. Make a green juice. That's one of my favorites, right? Make a green juice because that sets you up for a fantastic day, including getting a whole lot of soluble fiber, plus hyper concentrated set of nutrients for the rest of your day. But also journaling is a big one. I personally hated journaling because, like, frankly, I didn't know what to write. I'd have a blank page and I'm just like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to write. So you're just sitting there and you're trying to overthink, and then it ruins the whole point of journaling. So I created a free journal that you can go download right now. Take a second right now and let me know if you're going to download the journal. Say journal in the chat if you're going to go get it. And if somebody can type this link in the chat so that other people can just click on it, drkjournal.com. You can get my journal totally free. It's just a PDF page. Here, I'm going to show it to you now. It's just a PDF page, and it allows you to go through, write your goals each and every day. It kind of allows you to visualize it that way. And then your morning routine, you write this in the past tense. Why do you write things in the past tense? Because then your brain believes it has already happened, right? So writing about your day as if it has already happened makes it come true in many ways, right? So thank you, Barbara, for sharing the link, and Sarah. Yes, drkjournal.com. So writing about, what are you specifically grateful for? It's not enough to just say I'm grateful. Like, what are you specifically grateful for? I'm pleased because I completed this one main task today. If you did only one thing today to make yourself proud, what did you do? Why did you take that action? And then planning if your day went off course, right? Maybe it's an anxiety attack. How did you raise your energy, regain your momentum, and reclaim your power? And then what was one memorable thing that you did today? And then here you can track your sleep, your water intake, your nutrition, your fitness, time you spent outside. That's really important. And then rating how you feel in the following needs of your human needs: your stability in your life, excitement in your life, the human connection and love, purpose, growth. How do you rate on that scale? And then rating also your 5 pillars of emotional health, how you're feeling in that moment today. And then at the end, this is the day review, by the way. And at the end of the day, you just write, I'm proud because I've found this. If you do one thing each day to make yourself proud, right? This is an action. It's not a result. We can only control the actions that we take. We can't choose the results that happen, right? Sometimes anxiety is going to happen regardless of all the things that you do because it's just one of those days. It happens. It's okay, right? But if you took an action, because let's say I had an anxiety attack and instead of letting it overcome me, I breathed through it. I talked to myself and I said, hey, anxiety, I appreciate you for looking after me. I appreciate you for taking care of me and helping keeping me safe. And I've got this. I don't need your help right now. But thank you for being there for me, right? If you did that one thing, now you have something that you can say that you did that made yourself proud, and then one thing that you can improve. So if that is going to be helpful to you, please go and download that right now. And if you did download the Dr. K Journal right now, just type "got it" in the chat. By the way, if you're watching the replay, you can comment along with any of these things along the way, even though you're on the replay, because I'm going to go watch it later and I'll respond to you. All right. So here's the last tip: reframing. All right. I got to prep myself for this one because I'm about to drop some truth. Okay. Race car drivers, right? When they are driving on a track, and let's say the track is bending to the left, right? And they're going at an extremely high speed. There's other vehicles around them. If the conditions are poor, right? And they're thinking, okay, if I understeer, I'm going to run into this wall. And if they say, Don't run into the wall. Don't run into the wall. Don't run into the wall. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Type it in the chat. What do you think is going to happen if they tell themselves don't run into the wall? That's right. They're going to run into the wall. So instead, what they do, stay on the track, stay on the track, stay on the track, right? When we focus on our problems, the wall in this case, right? Anxiety in our case, if we focus on our problems too heavily, we fail to see the solution. Albert Einstein said that we cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. What does that mean? That the same, whatever created the problem in the first place, if you use that same machinery and mechanism to solve it, it's not going to work. It needs another approach. If you try to solve the problem of don't run into the wall, you're going to run into the wall. So it takes another approach, which is in the race car driver's example, to stay on the track, right? So we need to think differently if we're going to move from struggle and into health. And look, I get it. Anxiety is painful and it's a struggle to deal with it. And still, I want you to remember, and again, this is coming from somebody that I've had anxiety, right? In the past, I've had panic attacks. But the biggest mental health challenge that I have dealt with for years at a stretch at one point, and then in two other instances in the years that followed, was depression, right? And what I learned as time went on is that pain is going to happen. That's life, but suffering is optional. Never let your pain go to waste. Because if instead of feeling broken, instead of identifying too heavily with anxiety, because if you say I'm an anxious person, you're not going to get over anxiety because now it becomes part of your identity. What if instead you saw it as a sign? What if you saw it as a sign of your body telling you that it wants help, that it wants balance in this crazy modern world, right? Maybe it's asking you to focus on your psychology, your beliefs about yourself, tackling the issues of feeling that you're not enough and embracing your truth that you are, in fact, extraordinary. Maybe your anxiety is telling you to focus on your relationships, to improve those 5 people that you spend the most time with, right? So that you can be around growth-seeking, healthy individuals. Maybe it's telling you to focus on getting 8 quality hours of sleep per night and waking up without your phone and doing a morning routine that grounds yourself in the truth that inspires you to create the greatest of days. Maybe your anxiety is telling you to move your body out in the sun because motion dictates emotion. And maybe your anxiety is telling you to feed your gut microbes all the fiber and all the whole plant food goodness so that the bad guys can go away down there and you're left with good, healthy microbes that give you all that neurotransmitter goodness that you need. Listen, when you cut your skin, right, and get a paper cut or you scrape your skin, what do? Right? Do you hate on the wound? Do you identify with the wound and say, this is me now, right? Do you beat on it? Do you make it the enemy? Or do you wash it? Maybe put some antibiotic on it, protect it with a bandage, and just let it heal. Then why do we identify so much with our illnesses, especially anxiety? Because when we identify with our problems, we make it very difficult to let them go. Because if we see ourselves as an anxious person, well, we're always going to take actions, both conscious and unconscious, most consistent with who we believe we are. So look, we change when it hurts enough. And if anxiety is making it hurt enough right now, maybe the key to a healthier life filled with meaning and relationships and deep purpose is to take action right now. You have that capability within you. Let today be the day. I believe in your greatness. Whew. And there you have it. That is the 4 strategies for moving past anxiety. And I hope that is something that is helpful to you. And I do have, if you want to dive a little bit deeper, okay, if you're a growth seeker, right? March 14th, actually tonight. So tonight in the US, tomorrow in other parts of the world, I'm doing a workshop called Crush Imposter Syndrome. April 18th, another group workshop that is online called Loving Me, Loving You. It's about relationships. How do we fall in love with ourselves to attract the best partner we can? Or if we're in a relationship, how do we take that to the next level? It is for singles and couples. You can register for those at drknmd.com/workshops. But I got a better deal for you than that because you are Mind Journal readers. So the Insiders Club is an all-access pass to my emotional health courses. Okay. And actually, let me get my face out of here, make sure that QR code works. To all the emotional health courses that you can take on your own time, and the live online workshops like Crush Imposter Syndrome that's starting tonight. So if you joined Insiders Club right now, you can join the Imposter Syndrome class tonight. And you'll get access to all of the courses that are not currently in session. So I'm actually finishing Good Mood Plant Food right now as I'm doing this Facebook Live. So Good Mood Plant Food is the one that really dives into the emotional basis for why we eat what we eat and how to implement a whole food plant-based diet. By the way, whole food plant-based diet and the whole eat more fiber, it doesn't necessarily mean going vegan. In fact, there are plenty of ways to eat vegan that are incredibly unhealthy, that are not, just high in all the things that are not going to produce a good gut microbiome. Whole food plant-based just means you're eating more. The vast majority of your food comes from whole plant foods. I happen to go all the way, so I am technically vegan, but it is it's more about eating more whole plants, and so I help you do it in that course. And if you're in the Insiders Club, you can actually take that on your own time and get questions answered in an Insiders Q&A. So that all access pass is $47 a month, but the code TMJ10 for Mind Journal readers, you're going to get $10 off every single month as long as you're a member. So $37 a month. It's never been this cheap. I actually just lowered the price. My current Insiders Club members was a higher price, but I decided to lower it because everything in the world is getting more expensive these days, and that shouldn't be a barrier to improving our emotional health. So, and you can cancel this anytime. So really, there's no risk whatsoever. I really hope I get to see some of you there because, again, we have a community. Remember, I was talking about the 5 people you spend the most time with. Every workshop, we share our wins and we celebrate in each other's wins. So if you don't have people in your life that are celebrating your wins with you, then this is a great place to get that and to make new quality friends. So just scan that QR code and you can join in that. And with that, I just want to thank you so much. This has been a great deal of fun to be able to serve you today. And at this time, if we have any questions, go right into it. Ooh, all right. I gotta drink some water here. Thank you. And actually, if you want to go on the computer, because I gave you the QR code there, go to, somebody type this in for me, joininsidersclub.com, joininsidersclub.com. And actually, I can pull it up here and put it on the screen for you. Okay, so here we go. So if you go to joininsidersclub.com, say I want to be an insider, and then here put in TMJ10, and you'll get the same $37 off. Okay, so joininsidersclub.com, one word. Barbara, thank you for sharing that link. All right, so questions. Julia here says, for me, literally shifted everything in my life and my lifestyle to heal debilitating anxiety. So Julia, actually Dr. Julia now, she is one of my close friends and former client of mine as well. So But this is something that she dealt with significantly, and putting these things into action, especially around the food, around the reframing, becoming friends with your thoughts and feelings and not antagonizing yourself. These are some of the things that she mastered, and it's completely moved past anxiety. So I'm so proud of you, Julia. Thanks for being here. All right, let's see. We got questions. Do we have questions? Okay, here we go. Is there any process to calm anxiety attacks fast? I really have no clue how to handle it. Yes. So when anxiety is triggered in the brainstem, right? Like we talked about, we can't really use the rational means to end it. You can talk yourself through, but that doesn't always do it. So it's always, it's helpful to kind of stack that with another strategy. And this is what I call circuit breakers. This is where they come in. So if you can change any or all of these things, right? When you're in the midst of it, change your space. So if you're inside the office, inside your home, whatever it is, change your space, go outside, go to some other area, right? If possible. If you can't do that, you can't do that. But changing your state is another, changing your space. Changing your state is the other one. So this would be, again, doing something with your body, right? Even if it's forced, right? Sing, dance, exercise, like whatever it is that inspires you. What's something that you just love to do for no good reason, right? For me, it's singing in the car, right? I sing in the car all the time, right? So, and sometimes when you're in the midst of those really difficult moments and you just need to change your state, doing something that moves your body while you sing can be really helpful to me. For you, it might be something similar, or talking to somebody that inspires you, taking a cold shower, right? A cold shower is a quick way to change your state. Diaphragmatic breathing is another one. So what I mean by that, when we breathe, most adults, we're kind of breathing in our chest, that shallow breathing, right? But now put your hand on your belly, and now take a really deep breath into your belly. It's a very different breathing. And the more anxious we get, the more we breathe into just our chest. So what we find is that in order to move into sympathetic state is fight or flight, right? You want to move into a parasympathetic state, which is your rest and digest. And most of us are actually in a high parasympathetic tone, or sorry, take that back, high sympathetic tone in our day-to-day life anyway. And certainly when you're having, acute anxiety, it can make it worse. So increased parasympathetic tone can be done by breathing 5 to 6 seconds on the inhale into your belly, and then 5 to 6 seconds on the exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Another thing you can try is left nostril breathing. So literally plug your right nostril and breathe through your left nostril for, let's say, and do a box shape. So breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds. And hold for 4 seconds. So you're drawing a box where you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold the exhale for 4, and plug your right nostril. Do that entirely through your left, and kind of already feeling zenned out from doing that one time. All right. So hopefully that was useful in answering that question. All right. What other questions do we have? Kurt Johnson, is it possible to not have anxiety again? Can I absolutely prevent that? So in medical school, they would tell us that, nothing in medicine is guaranteed, right? And it's true. Nothing in health is ever guaranteed. I think, and I know this might be hard to hear, especially if you're in the midst of suffering with it. Okay. We can't guarantee anything. We can't guarantee that you'll never have anxiety again. I can't guarantee that I'll never feel depression again. But what I do know is that if that pain comes back, if a season of my life comes back where everything stacks up in a negative way and it sends me down into that hole, I've got the tools to weather the storm. I've got the ability to reframe the situation. I'm not going to make enemies with myself and my thoughts and my feelings and my brain. I'm not going to make enemies with depression or anxiety or anything else. I'm going to flow with it. And so the way to do that and the way to ensure that you're giving yourself the best chance possible to not experience anxiety again, right, is to create the conditions where your body doesn't need to produce anxiety to serve you. Think about it, right? Remember, earlier I talked about anxiety, and actually pretty much, so much of what we think of as disease is adaptive physiology. Our body is adapting to the circumstances that we put it in. So what if instead of looking at anxiety as a curse, if we looked at it as a gift that maybe our body's trying to tell us something and maybe we can listen? And so as we listen and we start improving our gut health and we start doing our morning routine and we start moving our body, living in joy, being around other people that are empowering, right? What function does anxiety serve at that point? Now, it doesn't mean that you might not worry. Sure, because that's good. Like having a healthy amount of worry is good. Otherwise, you might just run out into traffic. You don't want to do that, right? It's designed to keep you safe, but you don't need that overactive caution, that overactive worry that is anxiety, that is, eventually panic or whatever else. Does that make sense? So it's not, I'm not saying that you will never have anxiety again, but what I can say is that if you implement the strategies of the 5 pillars of emotional health, if you focus on your gut health, eat more whole plant foods, eat more fiber, right? And do the morning routines and just, again, surround yourself with great people, things like that. You're creating conditions where anxiety doesn't need to exist. So actually, Julia, if you're still in the chat, I would love to know, because again, she was somebody that I know personally who had dealt with, just crippling anxiety. And in the few years since, I'd be curious to see how it shows up. So if you're willing to share, if you're still here, I would love that. All right, next question. These are great questions, by the way. Thank you. You're welcome, Kylie. Barbara says, why am I so tired all the time? Yeah, that is, this is one I relate to big time. The best advice I can give you is if you are, I don't know where you live, but if you have access to a licensed naturopathic physician or a functional medicine doctor, somebody who might be able to look at your overall hormone picture, your overall, in a much more detailed blood panel than, say, a CBC, CMP, et cetera. Looking at thyroid function, looking at cortisol, right? In my case, cortisol was so remember, I don't know if you remember earlier in the talk today, among all the other things I was teaching you about, I talked about in the morning routine how cortisol peaks in the morning and then dips as the day goes on. So I was in a state that's casually known as adrenal fatigue. It's really hypothalamic pituitary axis dysfunction. Anyway, totally different conversation. But basically what happened was my cortisol, instead of peaking like that, it was a much smaller amount and then it was just flatlined. So I was basically crashing by 10 a.m. Just no energy to do anything the rest of the day. And it was a slow rebuild of my, lifestyle habits, learning that it was okay not to work all the time in my case, learning to create some boundaries of self-care, things that I was no longer willing to sacrifice, sleep, for instance. And so it's not an easy answer to say why you're tired all the time. It would take a very in-depth look into specifically why you might feel so tired all the time. However, there are ways that you can get to the bottom of that. And one of the things from a lifestyle standpoint that can certainly help is, again, eating more whole plant foods, because it is one of those things that, again, with with the optimized gut health, a lot of things start to fall into place. That doesn't mean it's going to cure everything, but it does allow you to start to move in that direction. But I would highly recommend, if you can get in touch with a local naturopathic doctor, if you are in a licensed state, if not a functional medicine doctor, to really take a look at that. That would be my recommendation there. All right. What else? We probably do one or two more questions. Barbara says, how do I disconnect from my family? This causes most of my depression and anxiety or worry. Yeah, this is a hard one, right? Because it's not as simple as to say cut people out of your life, because when they're family, you really can't. I guess you can, but I think a lot of us have, maybe that's not in line with, who we are to do that. So this is where morning routine and your gut health can make a drastic impact, because sometimes it is what they say, but sometimes it's the response of what they say that triggers us. And the better that we can feel about ourselves, the better we stand in wonder of the person that we are, right? And live in wonder of the person that we are and what we're becoming. The more we lean into growth, the better we feel about ourselves. And now the more resilient we are to maybe the comments and things like that. Now, that said, if one of the challenges that you face relates to, family taking advantage, essentially, maybe you're the person that always says yes to helping out, or because you're a giver, or whatever it might be. This is where we talk about, boundaries, and you just say, look, I have to do this. So let's say you're making a lifestyle change. Let's say you're changing your nutrition and you're eating more whole plant foods. And I've had this conversation myself where it was not the popular thing to do. It was not accepted at all. But I said, this is what I'm doing. But more important than that, this is who I am now. And I appreciate your support in advance. Sometimes here's a hack, by the way. If you thank somebody in advance for something that they haven't done yet, they usually live up to that standard. Doesn't happen all the time. There's no guarantees. But if you thank them in advance, say, hey, I've been dealing with this anxiety for a long time, and I'm making a bunch of changes, including how I'm eating. And I really thank you for supporting me in that. Even if they're not, right? But if you thank them in advance wholeheartedly, you're not faking it, right? If you hold people to a standard, more often than not, they live up to that standard. And when it comes to family, at some point, no amount of telling them to be a certain way is going to change. But if you take it upon yourself to focus on what you can control, right? Focus on what you can control, the food that you eat, the thoughts that you think, the other people, right, that you spend time with, and you elevate yourself. I've seen it happen where now all of a sudden, sometimes as critical as that family may be, over time, it starts to become, what are you doing? You look really good. You seem different. I want some of that. So, long answer to say, focus on what you can control, strengthen yourself, right? Create some boundaries around how much time you will and will not spend, and raise your standards about what you will and will not tolerate from them. And more importantly, what you will and will not tolerate from yourself. So I hope that was helpful. All right. One more question. Julia, anxiety for me shows up if I do things that I know throws my nervous system out of balance. So like poor sleep, alcohol, caffeine, not connecting to my body, falling off the morning and night routine, high intensity, intense workouts. Yeah. So isn't that interesting though? It's like you have found a way to, it's not, like on one hand, you could think of it as keeping it at bay, like, oh, keeping the anxiety at bay because I have to do all these things to keep it at bay. Or anxiety is just a little reminder that, hey, these are some good things for you. You feel really good when you do all these things. But life is really busy and we're out doing a bunch of stuff, whether it's our job or if you're an entrepreneur, it's you taking care of your business. If it's, going to school, then it's school. If it's just maybe you're a caretaker, whatever it is. Like we all have all these things that we have to do, and it's very easy to fall off of our self-care routine. So if we have a symptom that kind of nudges us in that direction, so like for me, if I fall off of my self-care routine, my body responds very quickly by adding weight. Yeah. You say potato chips, if I look at them, I'll gain a pound. But, I used to hate that, but now I look at it as what a gift, because there's so many people in this world that go through their entire lives blaming their past, focusing on things they can't control, living in suffering, and they never listen to the clues along the way, their symptoms or anything else, and they just suffered and one day died. And the reality is, I don't want to live that way. And I don't want you to live that way either. I want us to all be able to live in a world where we can focus on what we can control, be the very best person that we can be, right? Live in wonder of who we can become. I am living proof that your past does not have to reflect your future. Okay. And the people I've gotten to work with, I've seen some amazing transformation stories where, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it was self-criticism, whether it was, very difficult relationships with family, I've seen these things completely transform. And if you can believe that that can be you, and there is no reason to think that you can't, because I've talked about ways that you can move in that direction, right? And it's a matter of saying, does it hurt enough? Because if it hurts enough, we are going to make that change. So let today be the day. I appreciate all of you for your time here. I know we went longer than what was originally planned, and I appreciate everybody sticking around, and I hope you got a ton of value out of this. And again, join insidersclub.com, use code TMJ10, or here you go. Use this. You can use this QR code on your phone and it'll go straight to the page with the code attached to make it easy for you. And Crush Imposter Syndrome starts tonight. I would love to see some of you there. And regardless, you can still follow me though, as well. I forgot to mention this. If you want to find me, here's my website, drkarthikramanan.com. You can find me on YouTube. Just search my name. Instagram, Dr.Karthik Ramanan, LinkedIn, again, search my name. You'll be able to follow my content there. And again, hope to see you in one of my classes going forward. But either way, take the momentum that you have from today. Make today the day. Make today the day that you are raising your standards. You're saying enough is enough. I'm not going to tolerate living in suffering anymore. I'm going to take these actions. I'm going to move myself in a direction where anxiety doesn't have a purpose. And anxiety's only purpose then maybe is to kind of nudge you and say, hey, remember, kind of went off of the whole plant thing. Haven't done your morning routine in a little while. You had a little too much alcohol lately, whatever it is. And it's just a reminder that to move yourself in the direction of your ideal self. All right. Thank you again. I appreciate you all. I appreciate the Mind Journal for this opportunity. Always remember, I believe in your greatness.